Chosen one, they laughed. In that laughter, in the room where you were falling apart, and they were smiling like your pain was the funniest thing they had seen all year. You remember exactly how it sounded. Not loud, not dramatic, just that quiet snicker behind a hand. That comment dressed up as a joke. That look passed between two people like you were the punchline, and they were in on something you weren't. You were drowning, and they were taking notes. You were breaking, and they were laughing behind your back, like your struggle was entertainment for people who had nothing better to do than watch someone else bleed. Here's what they never understood. Laughter has a cost. It always does. And nobody ever tells the people laughing that the bill comes later, when they least expect it, when the person they mocked stops falling and starts rising, when the very struggle they laughed at becomes the exact thing that built the version of you standing here right now. Because chosen one, that's exactly what's happening. Not tomorrow, not someday, right now. The tables didn't just turn, they flipped completely over, and the people who once laughed at your pain are somewhere quiet tonight, watching your good times unfold from a distance, and something in their chest is cracking. Some of them are actually crying, not from joy for you, from something heavier, something they can't even name out loud. Call it karma, call it consequence, call it the universe finally sending the invoice. Before we go deeper into exactly how this happened and what's still coming, hit like and subscribe. Not for me, for the message, so it reaches the next chosen one who needs to hear that their bad times were never wasted. Think of it as your payback to the universe for showing you what was coming all along. You know the pain point already. You lived it in real time. Being laughed at while you were struggling, being mocked while you were trying to hold yourself together with nothing but stubbornness and quiet prayer, being treated like a cautionary tale instead of a person going through something hard. And you swallowed it. You didn't clap back. You didn't explain yourself. You just kept going, quietly, because you didn't have the energy to fight and heal at the same time. But somewhere in that silence, something was building. Every laugh they let out was getting logged somewhere you couldn't see. Every joke at your expense was becoming evidence. And now, chosen one, the account is being settled, and you don't even have to lift a finger to collect. Before we break this down, piece by piece, I need you locked in. If you've ever been laughed at during your lowest moment, and you're starting to feel that shift happening in your life right now, drop 77 in the comments. Let it be your signal that you're still here, still watching, still ready for what karma is about to show you. And if this message is reaching you at the exact right time, consider dropping a super thanks. It keeps this mission alive and helps it reach the next chosen one who's sitting in their bad times right now, wondering if anyone even sees them. Now let's go step by step, chosen one, because what's coming next is going to explain exactly why they're crying while you're finally smiling. Number 1. The tears they never planned on shedding. They laughed with their whole chest back then. Now they're crying somewhere quiet, and nobody's laughing with them this time. There's a moment that happens to every person who mocked someone else's pain, and it always arrives the same way. Quiet, alone, unannounced. No audience this time, no crowd to perform for, no one to laugh along with them. Just them, a screen, and the news that you didn't just survive what they laughed at, you turned it into something they can't even compete with. That's the moment we're talking about, chosen one. That's the moment already happening for at least one of them right now. Think about how loud they were back then, how easy it was for them to make jokes about your situation, to whisper about your struggles like it was gossip instead of your actual life. They didn't hold back because they never thought there would be a version of you they'd have to answer to. They thought your bad times were permanent. They thought you were the story that ends in the middle, not the one that comes back stronger in the final act. Imagine this: a group of people standing around a fire, warming their hands, laughing at someone shivering in the cold, outside the circle. They never once considered that the person outside would build their own fire, one bigger and warmer than anything the group ever had. And now, one by one, they're the ones standing in the cold, watching your fire from a distance, wondering how they ended up on the outside looking in. That's what's happening, not metaphorically, actually. The same people who couldn't wait to comment on your bad days have gone quiet on your good ones. No congratulations, no acknowledgement, just silence, and somewhere behind that silence, tears they'll never admit to shedding. Because here's the truth about people who laugh at pain, chosen one. They don't know what to do when that pain turns into power. They have no script for it. They only rehearsed the mockery, never the moment they'd have to watch you win. You might be asking yourself, why do I even care if they're crying? You don't need to care. That's not the point. The point is understanding that karma isn't loud, it isn't dramatic, it doesn't need your permission or your applause. It just moves, quietly, methodically, until the same energy they gave out finds its way back to their own doorstep. They spent years laughing at your lowest. Now they get to sit with your highest, and it's breaking something in them they didn't know could break. This isn't about revenge, and it never was. You didn't orchestrate this. You didn't send messages, plan a comeback, or wait around scheming for the perfect moment to prove them wrong. You just kept living. You just kept showing up for yourself when nobody else would. And somewhere in that simple, quiet consistency, the universe did what it always does. It balanced the scale. Every joke they made, every laugh they shared at your expense, it's all sitting on the other side of that scale now, and it's heavier than they ever imagined. And here's something worth sitting with for a second, chosen one. Their tears aren't a performance either. There's no audience clapping along this time, no group laughing in the background, no comfort of numbers behind them. They're alone with it, the exact same way you were alone with your pain back then, except you had a reason to keep fighting through yours. You had a version of yourself waiting on the other side. They only have the slow, sinking realization that they picked the wrong person to underestimate, and there's nothing waiting for them on the other side of that, except more of the same discomfort. So let them cry where nobody can see it. Let them feel the weight of what they once thought was harmless. You never asked for this reversal, chosen one, but you earned it every single day you refused to disappear. Number 2, the group chat that used to be about you. Now it's gone completely silent, and that silence is louder than every joke they ever made. You know the one. The group chat where your name came up more than it should have. Where your bad days became content, your struggles became stories, your pain became something to pass the time with between everything else going on in their lives. You weren't in the room, but you didn't need to be. You felt it. That specific kind of cold that comes from knowing people are talking about you and enjoying it. Here's what's happening in that same group chat right now. Nothing. Silence. Because your name doesn't come with a punchline anymore. It comes with proof, receipts, a version of your life they can't twist into a joke without exposing their own bitterness. The same people who used to type fast, who used to add the laughing emojis, who used to keep the conversation going for way longer than it deserved, they've gone quiet. Not because they suddenly respect you, because they don't know what to say to someone who proved every single thing they whispered about wrong. Imagine this, a stage that used to be packed with an audience, every seat filled with people laughing at the show. Now the curtain rises, and the seats are empty. Not because the show ended, because the joke stopped being funny the second it stopped being true. That's their group chat now. Empty seats where laughter used to be. You might wonder if they ever talk about you at all anymore. They do, just differently, quietly, carefully. The tone changed from mockery to something closer to disbelief, maybe even something close to shame, though none of them would ever call it that out loud. They're not laughing anymore, because laughing requires confidence, and confidence requires being on the right side of the story. They're no longer on the right side. They never were, they just didn't know it yet. This is the part that should sit with you the longest, chosen one. You never needed their silence to feel like winning. You were never chasing their approval or trying to shut down their conversation. But the universe handed it to you anyway, because that's what happens when truth finally outgrows the lies built around it. The chat that once thrived on your pain simply has nothing left to say now that your pain turned into your proof. You have to understand what that group chat represented for them back then. It wasn't really about you at all, not fully. It was about connection, about feeling clever, about having something easy to bond over when there was nothing else interesting happening in their lives. Your struggle gave them a shared hobby, chosen one, something to check in on together, like it was a show airing new episodes. And shows that stop airing eventually get forgotten. Except this one didn't end because it got cancelled. It ended because the main character stopped playing the role they wrote for you. And somewhere in that same chat, someone is typing something and deleting it, over and over. Because there's no version of that message that doesn't sound like an apology they're too proud to send. Think about what that silence actually costs them, chosen one. They used to have something to say about everything you did. It gave them a reason to open the chat, a reason to feel connected, a reason to feel like they were part of something bigger than their own boring routine. Now they open it, and there's nothing left to add, because the story moved on without needing their commentary. And a story that doesn't need you to comment on it is the loudest reminder that you were never as important to it as you thought you were. Let them sit in that discomfort. Let the silence stretch as long as it needs to. You already won the moment their laughter stopped being loud enough to bury who you actually were. Number 3. The ones who mocked your tears now hide their own. Nothing humbles a person faster than watching the thing they called weakness become the thing they secretly wish they had. Back then, your tears were a joke to them. You cried in private, or maybe you didn't hide it as well as you wanted to, and somehow that became something to whisper about. They called it dramatic. They called it weak. They called it exactly what they needed to call it, so they didn't have to sit with the discomfort of actually caring about what you were going through. It was easier to laugh than to ask if you were okay. Now watch what's happening. The same people who mocked your tears are hiding their own, and there's a very specific reason for that. Because their tears now come from a place they can't explain to anyone without admitting they were wrong about you. Crying over your success isn't something people brag about. It's something they hide in bathrooms, in cars, in quiet rooms where nobody can ask them why they look upset over someone else winning. Imagine this. Someone stands in a doorway, watching a celebration they weren't invited to, not because the door was locked, but because they built the wall themselves years ago, with every joke, every laugh, every dismissive comment about your pain. Now they're on the outside, watching the version of you they swore would never make it, and the tears that come aren't happy ones. They're the tears of someone realizing the wall they built was never protecting them. It was just isolating them from the truth. You might ask why karma works this way, quietly, without confrontation, without you ever needing to say a single word to them. Because real justice doesn't need volume. It doesn't need you standing in front of them demanding acknowledgement. It just needs time, and time has already done more work than any argument ever could. Notice something else here too, chosen one. You never once needed them to understand your tears back then, for those tears to be valid. Their laughter never actually changed what you were going through. It only made it heavier to carry. And now, watching them experience their own version of that heaviness, you don't need to explain it to them either. Some lessons only make sense when you're the one living them, and this is a lesson they're finally being forced to learn on their own terms, with no shortcuts and no one laughing along to soften the blow. This is the part they can't undo, chosen one. They can't rewind the moment they laughed at you crying and replace it with compassion now that it's convenient. The timing is permanent. It's recorded, not on paper, but in the way people remember who showed up for them and who didn't. And when your story gets told later, by you or by someone else, that memory of their laughter is going to sit right there next to your rise, impossible to separate. There's a particular kind of shame that comes from crying over the exact thing you once laughed at, chosen one. And it's not the kind of shame you can explain to anyone without exposing yourself completely. They can't tell their friends why they're upset. They can't post about it. They can't even fully admit it to themselves without unraveling the version of themselves they've been protecting for years. So it stays quiet, buried under normal conversation and forced smiles, showing up only in the moments when nobody else is watching. So let their tears fall in private. Let them carry the weight of realizing too late that your pain deserved more than a punchline. You don't need to see it happen to know it's happening. Some victories are quiet like that, chosen one, and this one belongs entirely to you. Number 4. The apology that's forming but never arrives. They rehearse the words in their head constantly, but pride keeps grabbing the phone before they can send it. There's a specific kind of torment that comes from owing someone an apology you're too proud to give. It sits in your chest. It shows up at random moments. It interrupts good days with the memory of something you know you did wrong. That's exactly where several of your old laughers are living right now, chosen one. Not free, not comfortable. Stuck somewhere between guilt and ego, unable to move forward, because moving forward would mean admitting they were the ones who got it wrong. You've probably noticed it already, the random message that says nothing important. The comment on a post that feels oddly overcompensating. The sudden interest in your life after months, sometimes years, of silence. That's not coincidence. That's guilt looking for a side door because it can't walk through the front one and say the real thing out loud. Imagine this. A person standing outside a house, holding a letter they've rewritten a dozen times, walking up to the door, then turning around before they ever knock. That's what an unspoken apology looks like. It exists. It's real. It's just never going to reach you the way it should, because saying it fully means admitting they were cruel to someone who didn't deserve it, and pride doesn't like admitting anything. You don't need their apology to move forward. And honestly, chosen one, you probably already knew that. But there's something worth noticing here. The people who once had all the confidence in the world to laugh at you now don't have enough confidence to be honest with you. That imbalance says everything. They had courage when they thought you were down. They have none now that you're not. It's a strange kind of proof, chosen one, watching cruelty and courage never actually travel together. The people who mock others when they're struggling almost never have the nerve to face them once the tables turn. It exposes what that laughter really was in the first place. Not confidence, not honesty. Just cheap bravery, borrowed from a moment when they assumed you'd never rise high enough to hear it, let alone remember it clearly enough to notice the silence now. This is the quiet punishment nobody talks about. Not public humiliation, not dramatic confrontation, just the slow, grinding discomfort of knowing you owe something you'll probably never pay. They'll carry that, not forever maybe, but for long enough that it changes how they see themselves every time your name comes up. You don't have to wait for that apology to come, chosen one, and honestly, waiting for it would just keep you tethered to people who already showed you exactly who they were. Whether it arrives tomorrow or never arrives at all, changes nothing about the fact that you already moved forward without it. That's the real victory hiding underneath all of this quiet tension. You stopped needing their words to feel finished with that chapter a long time ago. Here's the part that makes it worse for them, chosen one, not better. The longer they wait, the harder the apology gets to give, because every day that passes adds another layer of explaining to do. It's no longer just about the laughing. Now it's about the silence after, the years of pretending nothing happened, the distance they let grow, instead of closing it while it was still small. What started as one moment of cruelty has quietly become a mountain of avoidance. And mountains don't get easier to climb the longer you leave them standing. You already forgave yourself for ever needing their approval in the first place. That's the real closure here. Their unsent apology isn't your burden to carry, it's theirs, and it's going to sit heavy for exactly as long as their pride refuses to put it down. Number 5. The comparison they can't stop making, even when it destroys their own peace every single time. Here's something nobody warns people about when they choose to laugh at someone else's struggle. Eventually, they lose the ability to look at their own life without comparing it to yours. It becomes involuntary, a reflex. Every time something good happens to you, chosen one, it lands on their radar, and every time it lands, it forces them to measure their own progress against the person they swore would never amount to anything. That comparison is exhausting, and it never stops once it starts. They can't unsee your rise. They can't pretend they don't notice. And the worst part for them is knowing that you're not even trying to be noticed. You're just living, just building, just moving forward at your own pace. And that ease is what really gets under their skin. You're not performing for them. You never were, but they're watching anyway, and every glance costs them a little piece of their peace. Imagine this, someone trying to enjoy a meal while constantly checking a clock they can't stop staring at, knowing every second that passes is a second they didn't spend where you are now. That's what comparison does to a person who once mocked someone they underestimated. It steals the present moment and replaces it with a constant, quiet audit of everything they think they're missing. You might wonder why they can't just look away, why they can't simply move on with their own life and let yours exist separately. Because deep down, chosen one, some part of them knows the truth. Your rise is proof of their misjudgment, and people struggle to look away from proof of their own mistakes, even when looking away would clearly hurt less. There's an irony sitting right in the middle of all this too, chosen one. They spent years insisting you'd never measure up to anything, and now they're the ones doing the measuring, obsessively, quietly, against their own will. The role they assigned you has completely reversed itself without you ever asking for it to. You're not the one comparing anymore. You stopped needing that scoreboard the moment you decided your own growth didn't require their scorecard to feel real. This comparison isn't your responsibility to manage. You didn't create it, and you can't fix it for them. All you can do is keep living the life that makes their comparison so unbearable in the first place. Every milestone you hit without needing their permission or their applause becomes another entry in a ledger they never wanted to keep. And chosen one, that ledger only grows heavier from here. The further you go, the wider that gap becomes, and the wider it becomes, the harder it gets for them to pretend they're not tracking it. You're not doing anything to widen it on purpose. You're just refusing to stop, and refusing to stop is apparently the one thing they never accounted for when they decided your story was already over. And here's the part that should make you exhale, chosen one, instead of tense up. You're not in this comparison with them. You never opted in. You're simply living, and they're the ones who chose to turn your life into a measuring stick for their own. That was never a fair fight, because you're not trying to win anything against them. You're just trying to become who you were always meant to become. And it just so happens that watching it unfold is unbearable for people who spent years hoping you'd stay small. Let them keep checking the clock. Let them keep measuring. You stopped needing their scoreboard the day you stopped needing their approval, and that's exactly why their comparison keeps losing. Number 6. Why your rise feels like punishment to the people who never expected it. They didn't just underestimate you. They built their whole confidence on the assumption that you never would. There's a difference between someone simply not believing in you and someone actively needing you to fail in order to feel secure about themselves. A lot of your old laughers fall into that second category, chosen one, even if they'd never admit it out loud. Your struggle used to be a comfort to them. It made their own average choices feel better by comparison. As long as you were down, they didn't have to look too closely at their own stagnant lives. That's exactly why your rise feels less like good news to them and more like a personal blow. It's not that they wish anything specifically bad for you now, it's that your success removes the comfortable comparison they were quietly leaning on for years. Watching you rise forces them to ask uncomfortable questions about their own choices, their own excuses, their own years spent standing still while mocking someone who refused to. Imagine this: someone leaning against a wall they thought was permanent, only to watch the wall slowly disappear brick by brick while they're still leaning on it. That sudden loss of support, that scramble to find new footing, that's what your growth is doing to people who built their comfort around your struggle. They're not just watching you rise, they're losing the thing they used to feel okay about themselves. And there's nothing you can hand them to replace it, chosen one, even if you wanted to. That comfort was never yours to give in the first place. It was something they took without asking, propped up quietly on the back of a struggle that was never theirs to lean on. Its disappearance was inevitable the moment you decided to keep moving instead of staying stuck where their comfort needed you to stay. You might wonder if this makes you responsible for how they feel. It doesn't. You're allowed to grow even if it inconveniences someone else's comfort. You're allowed to heal even if it removes someone's favorite comparison point. Their punishment, if we can even call it that, isn't something you're inflicting. It's something they built for themselves the moment they decided your pain was their measuring stick. Think about how fragile that kind of confidence really was, chosen one, if it could only survive as long as you stayed struggling. Real confidence doesn't need someone else to be doing worse in order to feel solid. It stands on its own, without comparison, without needing a lower baseline to lean against. What they had wasn't confidence at all. It was borrowed comfort, propped up by your pain, and borrowed things always have to be returned eventually, usually at the worst possible moment for the person who borrowed them. You might even feel a flicker of guilt reading this, chosen one, like somehow your growth is unkind to the people who leaned on your struggle. Let that guilt go. Nobody has the right to ask you to shrink so their comfort stays intact. Nobody gets to demand you stay in a low season just so their own stagnation feels less obvious. Their comfort was never your responsibility, and it never should have been. You owe them nothing, especially not the version of yourself they found easiest to laugh at. This is the part that should feel like peace instead of guilt, chosen one. You didn't rise to punish anyone. You rose because you refused to stay where they left you. If that shakes their sense of security, that was never a stable foundation to begin with. Keep building. Let the wall keep crumbling behind you. Number 7. The silent audience that used to cheer for their jokes now watches you instead. Every person who laughed at you had an audience, chosen one. Friends who nodded along, people who chuckled at the right moments. A small crowd that made the mockery feel justified because everyone else seemed to be in on it too. That audience gave them permission. It made cruelty feel like comedy because nobody in the room was brave enough to say it wasn't funny. That audience is gone now, or at the very least, it's changed sides. The same people who once laughed along are quietly watching your story unfold, and something in them has shifted too. Maybe they feel a little guilty for laughing back then. Maybe they're simply impressed by what they're seeing now. Either way, the crowd that used to fuel their jokes has stopped clapping, and that loss of an audience is its own kind of consequence. Imagine this: a comedian standing on a stage they used to own, cracking the same old jokes, waiting for the laughter that used to come easy. But the room stays quiet this time, because the joke was always about someone who's no longer an easy target. The silence in that room says more than any heckler ever could. You might notice this shift in small ways. People who used to stay quiet when your name came up now speak a little more kindly. People who used to laugh along now change the subject when your old struggles get brought up as a joke. That's not loyalty suddenly appearing out of nowhere. That's the room recognizing that the story doesn't hold up anymore and choosing not to be part of something that clearly aged badly. Crowds are fickle by nature, chosen one, always have been. They follow whatever feels safest, whatever seems socially acceptable in the moment. Back then, laughing at you felt safe because everyone else was doing it too. Now defending the old jokes feels risky because everyone can see how wrong they turned out to be. That's not real character showing up in the room. It's self-preservation dressed up as decency. But either way, the laughter has nowhere left to land, and that alone changes everything about how the story gets told from here. This matters, chosen one, not because you need their validation, but because it proves something important. The narrative they built about you was never as solid as they thought. It only worked as long as everyone else agreed to laugh along. The second the room stopped agreeing, the whole joke fell apart, and it took their credibility with it. Credibility, once lost like that, is hard to rebuild, chosen one, especially when the people around them start quietly recalculating everything else they've ever said. If they were wrong about you, what else were they wrong about? That question doesn't stay contained. It spreads, slowly, into every corner of how people perceive them now, and there's no joke clever enough to talk their way back out of that kind of doubt. There's a lesson hiding in this for anyone who's ever felt small, because a room full of people seem to be against them, chosen one. Rooms change, crowds shift. The same people who once seemed united in their mockery were never as solid as they appeared. They were just waiting for permission to feel differently, and your rise gave them exactly that. You didn't need to convince a single one of them. You just kept living loud enough, in your own quiet way, that the truth did the convincing for you. Let them stand on that quiet stage. Let them feel the absence of an audience that used to make cruelty feel harmless. You were never performing for that crowd, and you certainly don't need it now. Number 8. The version of you they mocked doesn't exist anymore, and they don't know how to process that. They built a whole narrative around a version of you that was struggling, uncertain, easy to underestimate. That version became their reference point, the character they laughed at whenever your name came up. But here's the problem for them now, chosen one. That version of you doesn't exist anymore, and they have absolutely no idea what to do with the person who replaced it. People who mock others tend to freeze that person in the worst moment they witnessed. They don't update the file, they don't account for growth, effort, or time. So when they encounter the current version of you, calm, capable, moving forward without needing their opinion, it creates a kind of confusion they weren't prepared for. The joke they've been telling for years suddenly doesn't match the person standing in front of them. Imagine this: someone walking into a familiar room, expecting it to look exactly the way they left it, only to find it completely renovated, unrecognizable, better in every way they didn't think was possible. That disorientation, that quiet unease, that's exactly what happens when they run into the current you after years of laughing at an outdated memory. You might notice them stumbling over their words when your name comes up now, struggling to reconcile the story they used to tell with the reality standing in front of them. That stumble is real, chosen one. It's the sound of a narrative collapsing in real time, because the only thing holding it together was your silence and their assumption that nothing would ever change. There's something almost poetic about that stumble, chosen one, if you think about it long enough. The people who once had all the confident, cutting things to say about you now can't finish a sentence when your name comes up. Words that used to come easy now catch in their throat because the joke requires a version of you that doesn't exist to make it land, and every attempt to force it just reveals how far behind their perception of you has fallen. This is exactly why growth is the quietest form of proof there is. You didn't need to correct them. You didn't need to announce your evolution. You just became someone their old jokes couldn't touch anymore. And that alone rewired every conversation your name is part of now. That's the thing about real change, chosen one. It doesn't ask permission to arrive, and it doesn't wait for an audience to acknowledge it before it becomes true. It just happens, quietly, in the background of ordinary days, until one moment forces everyone who doubted it to catch up all at once. That catching up is exactly what's happening to them right now, and there's no fast-forwarding through the discomfort of finally seeing someone clearly after years of only seeing what was convenient. This is exactly why some of them have gone quiet instead of hostile, chosen one. Hostility requires confidence, and confidence requires knowing your target still fits the old description. They don't know how to attack a version of you they've never actually met, one that doesn't flinch at old insults, because those insults were built for someone who doesn't exist anymore. So instead of attacking, they just watch, confused, trying to figure out when exactly the switch happened, never realizing it wasn't a switch at all. It was years of quiet, steady work they never witnessed because they were too busy laughing to notice you building something real. Let them sit with that confusion. Let them try to laugh the old joke one more time and watch it fall completely flat. The version of you they mocked is gone, and what replaced it is something they never planned for. Number 9. Why karma waited this long, and why the timing was never a mistake. You've probably asked yourself this before, chosen one. Why now? Why not back then, when you needed it most, when you were crying yourself to sleep and wondering if anyone was ever going to notice how unfair it all was? Why did karma wait until you were already standing back up to finally show up and settle the score? Because karma isn't interested in rescuing you from the fall. It's interested in confirming the rise. If it had shown up during your worst moment, it would have looked like luck, like coincidence, like something that happened to you, instead of something you built. But arriving now, after you've already done the work, after you've already proven you didn't need saving, it lands differently. It lands as proof, not charity. Imagine this. A farmer who plants a seed doesn't expect fruit the next morning. The harvest comes on its own timeline, after the roots have had time to dig deep enough to survive a storm. Your bad times were the storm, chosen one. Every laugh they aimed at you was wind trying to knock you over, and karma waited until your roots were unshakable before it let anyone see the fruit. You might wonder if the wait was fair. It doesn't need to be fair to be right. The timing wasn't a delay, it was preparation. It gave you the space to become someone who wouldn't be shaken by finally seeing them cry, someone who could witness this reversal with peace instead of desperation for their validation. Consider what would have happened if karma had rushed, chosen one. A quick reversal, delivered too early, would have felt satisfying for a moment, and then hollow soon after, because you wouldn't have had the strength yet to hold it, without needing to gloat, without needing to prove a point, without needing their tears to feel complete. Instead, the weight built something sturdier inside you first, so that when the reversal finally came, it landed on solid ground instead of on top of leftover bitterness, still looking for somewhere to go. This is the part that separates real justice from petty revenge. Revenge wants an audience. Karma doesn't need one. It simply waits until the outcome speaks for itself, until there's nothing left to argue, no room left for them to explain it away as bad luck or coincidence. That's exactly where we are now. And that's exactly why it feels so undeniable, chosen one. There's no gray area left for them to hide in, no version of events they can spin that doesn't eventually circle back to the truth. You didn't force this outcome, you simply refused to quit, and refusing to quit long enough turns out to be the one thing karma always seems to reward, on its own schedule, in its own way, every single time. Think about how differently this would have felt if it happened even a year earlier, chosen one. You might have needed their reaction back then. You might have needed to see them regret it, just to feel like your pain counted for something. But now, watching it unfold from a place of genuine peace instead of desperate need, it hits completely different. You get to witness it instead of depending on it. That distinction is everything, and it's only possible because the timing waited exactly as long as it needed to. So no, chosen one, the timing was never a mistake. It was the only way this could have landed with this much weight. Every year you waited was a year your roots kept growing, and now the storm they created has nothing left to knock down. Number 10. The ones who stayed quiet while the laughing happened are just as uncomfortable now as the loudest ones ever were. Not everyone who hurt you did it with laughter. Some people just stood there, watching it happen, saying nothing, letting the moment pass, because speaking up would have cost them something. That silence, chosen one, that felt like its own kind of betrayal, maybe even sharper than the laughter itself, because you expected more from them. Here's what's happening now. Those same quiet bystanders are uncomfortable too. Watching your success reminds them of the moment they chose comfort over standing up for you. And that memory doesn't fade just because time has passed. If anything, your rise makes it worse, because now they have to watch someone they failed to defend prove that they were worth defending all along. Imagine this: a person standing at the edge of a crowd, watching someone drown, doing nothing, then years later watching that same person swim faster than anyone else in the room. The silence back then wasn't neutral. It was a choice, and choices like that don't disappear just because nobody talks about them out loud. You might feel tempted to let those people back in now that things have shifted, now that they're being kinder, quieter, more careful around you. That's your call to make, chosen one, nobody else's. But it's worth remembering that discomfort isn't the same thing as growth. Some of them are uncomfortable because they regret their silence. Others are uncomfortable simply because they got caught being complicit and don't like what that says about them. The hardest part about silent bystanders, chosen one, is that they rarely see themselves as part of the problem. They remember standing there. They don't remember choosing not to speak, at least not in a way that feels like a real decision to them. So watching your rise forces a kind of self-reckoning most of them never expected to face. One where the story they told themselves about being neutral gets quietly rewritten into something closer to the truth, whether they're ready to admit it out loud or not. This isn't about punishing anyone for the rest of their life. It's about recognizing the truth clearly, without letting guilt from someone else magically erase what actually happened. You get to decide who earns a place in your life moving forward. And discomfort alone isn't proof of change. Time and consistency are the only things that ever really are. Give it time before you decide anything, chosen one. Watch what people do, not just how uncomfortable they suddenly look around you. Anyone can manage a few weeks of awkward kindness. Far fewer can sustain real accountability long after the discomfort fades, and there's no more pressure keeping them honest. That's the real test, and it's one only time can actually administer. This is worth remembering the next time someone new steps back into your life, acting overly kind, chosen one, especially the ones who used to stand quietly at the edge of the laughter. Kindness that only shows up after the risk is gone isn't the same as loyalty. Real support doesn't wait until it's safe. It doesn't wait until you've already proven yourself beyond doubt. So take the sudden kindness for what it is, an uncomfortable reaction to guilt, not necessarily a changed heart, and let time, not their tone, tell you which one it actually is. Let their unease exist without needing to fix it for them. You already carried enough weight during the years they stayed silent. You don't owe anyone comfort now just because the story finally flipped in your favor. Number 11. The new story they're quietly rewriting about who they always believed in. This one might make you laugh a little, chosen one, because it's almost too predictable to be surprising. Some of the same people who laughed the loudest are now quietly rewriting history, telling a version of the story where they were always rooting for you, always knew you had it in you, always believed you'd make it through. It's a small, quiet act of self-protection, and it happens more often than people realize. Nobody wants to be remembered as the person who laughed at someone who ended up proving everyone wrong. So instead of sitting with that discomfort honestly, some people simply edit the memory. They soften their role. They erase the mockery and replace it with quiet support that never actually existed. It's easier than admitting the truth, even if it means lying to themselves in the process. Imagine this: someone repainting a mural after the crowd has already seen the original, hoping nobody remembers what it looked like before. That's what rewriting the story looks like. It doesn't erase what happened. It just adds another layer of dishonesty on top of the first one. You might run into this version of events eventually. Someone casually mentioning how they always knew you'd turn things around, how proud they've secretly been the whole time. You don't have to correct them publicly. You don't have to expose the rewrite. You already know the truth, and that knowledge is more valuable than any argument you could win by pointing out their revision. Let it go without needing to win the point, chosen one. Every time someone rewrites their role into something kinder than what it was, they're quietly admitting the original version was something they can't live with. That admission, even hidden inside a lie, still tells you everything you need to know. They know what they did. They just can't carry it honestly, so they're carrying a lighter, softer version instead. And that softer version was never meant for you to believe anyway. It was built for them to believe. This is exactly why staying grounded in your own memory matters, chosen one. Not for revenge, but for clarity. You know who showed up and who didn't. You know who laughed and who stayed silent, and who is now trying to claim a seat at a table they never helped build. That knowledge protects you from being fooled twice by the same people wearing a new story. Memory, in this case, isn't bitterness, chosen one. It's just information, and information is what keeps you from repeating a mistake you already paid a heavy price to learn from. You're allowed to be kind to people while still remembering exactly what they did. Those two things aren't in conflict. Grace doesn't require amnesia, and moving forward doesn't require forgetting who tried to keep you from ever getting here. There's something almost funny about it too, chosen one, if you let yourself see it that way. The same people who never once checked on you during the actual hard part are now trying to claim a front row seat to your comeback story. That takes a specific kind of nerve, and also a specific kind of fear, the fear of being remembered accurately. Nobody wants to be the villain in a story that ends well for the person they underestimated. So they'll keep softening their role in the retelling, quietly, one conversation at a time, hoping nobody who was actually there corrects them. Let them rewrite it if it helps them sleep at night. You don't need their new version to validate your journey. You lived the real one, start to finish, and that's the only version that ever mattered. Number 12. The moment they realized they were never the main character in your story. For a long time, they acted like their opinion mattered, like their laughter had the power to define who you were, like their approval or disapproval could actually shape your future. That belief made them bold. It made them comfortable mocking you because in their minds, they held some kind of authority over your story. Chosen one, that illusion just collapsed completely. Watching your rise from a distance is forcing them to confront an uncomfortable truth. They were never the main character. They weren't even a meaningful supporting role. They were a passing chapter, a rough patch, a group of people you had to walk through on your way to somewhere better. And realizing you don't need their laughter, their apology, or their approval to keep moving forward is exactly what's breaking their sense of relevance right now. Imagine this: someone convinced they were the villain in an epic story, only to discover they were barely mentioned in the footnotes. That kind of realization is humbling in the worst way, because it strips away the importance they assigned themselves without your permission. You never needed them to be a big part of your story. They just assumed they were, because cruelty tends to feel powerful in the moment it happens. You might feel a strange kind of peace reading this, chosen one, because deep down, you probably always knew this. You never built your life around proving them wrong. You built it around becoming who you were meant to be, and their reaction, whether laughter or tears, was always going to be secondary to that process. That's exactly why this ending doesn't need their agreement to be true, chosen one. Main characters don't need supporting cast members to sign off on the plot. They just move forward, chapter after chapter, letting the story build on its own terms. The people who laughed thought they were writing a tragedy. What they were actually doing, without meaning to, was writing themselves out of the story entirely, one joke at a time, until there was nothing left of their role but a footnote nobody bothers to reread. This is the final piece of clarity they're struggling with right now. Their laughter didn't define your story. Their tears don't define it either. You do. You always did. And the sooner they accept how small their role actually was, the sooner they can stop obsessing over a story that was never really about them in the first place. Some of them may never get there, chosen one, and that's fine too. You don't need their acceptance to keep authoring your own life. Their obsession with a story that has already moved past them is their weight to carry, not yours. And every chapter you write from here only makes that footnote smaller and smaller in the rear view. And once you truly accept how small their role was, chosen one, something interesting happens. The sting of the memory starts to fade, not because it didn't hurt, it did, but because you stop giving it the same weight in your present life. It becomes a chapter you survived instead of a wound you're still bleeding from. That shift alone is worth more than any apology they could ever offer, because it means their laughter no longer has any power over how your story continues from here. Let them keep reading footnotes into a story they were never the author of. You're the one writing the next chapter, chosen one, and it doesn't require their signature, their apology, or their permission to keep going. Number 13, the ending they never saw coming, and the one you always knew was possible. Here we are, chosen one, at the part of the story they genuinely never prepared for, not because they weren't paying attention, but because deep down they never believed this ending was possible for you. They wrote you into a smaller story, one where the bad times were the whole plot, where the laughter was the final word, where you stayed exactly where they left you. This ending, the one where you rise and they quietly cry, somewhere you'll never see, was never part of their script. That's exactly why it hits so hard for them. They weren't prepared for growth. They weren't prepared for peace. They weren't prepared for a version of you that doesn't need their apology to move forward and doesn't need their laughter to stop in order to feel whole. You simply became someone their old story couldn't hold anymore, and that reality is settling into their life in ways they'll probably never say out loud. Imagine this. A closing scene where the crowd that once laughed sits quietly in the dark, watching the credits roll on a story they thought they controlled, only to realize they were never holding the pen. You were. You always were. Every bad time, every laugh, every quiet tear they're shedding now It's all just part of the story you were writing the entire time, whether they understood it or not. And chosen one, credits rolling, doesn't mean the story stops. It just means this chapter is closing, clean, complete, with every loose end finally accounted for. What comes after this is entirely yours to write, unshaped by their old opinions, untouched by their old laughter, built only from what you actually want your next season to look like. You might still carry some of the old weight from those years, chosen one, and that's completely human. But carry it knowing it built something they can't touch, can't mock, and can't take credit for. Your bad times weren't wasted. They were the foundation. And their laughter, as painful as it was, ended up funding a version of you they now have to watch from the outside, wondering how they got this so wrong. And maybe the most important thing to take from all of this, chosen one, isn't even their tears. It's the proof, finally undeniable, that you were never the joke they made you out to be. You were the whole punchline, delayed, arriving exactly when you were strong enough to hear it land without flinching. Every chapter we walked through today, the silence, the guilt, the comparisons, the quiet tears, they all point back to the same simple truth. What you went through mattered. What you built matters more. And nothing they said back then, no matter how loud the laughter was, gets to define how this story ends. This isn't the end of your story. It's just the closing of a chapter that finally makes sense, now that you can see the whole picture. The tears on their side, and the peace on yours. That's not coincidence, chosen one. That's balance, finally, fully, and completely restored. If this message reached exactly where you needed it today, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, drop 77 one more time in the comments, and share this with someone who was laughed at during their bad times and needs to hear that karma never forgets. Thanks for watching, chosen one. We'll see you in the next video. Take care and goodbye.